Voting is a civic duty. Let's register on the electoral list. This is a message from Equinoxe Television.
6 p.m. in Kumba in the Mehmet Division, southwest region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Akwa-Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Our major story tonight: the CPDM party in the Far North region is embroiled in a heated internal dispute, threatening to destabilize the party's foundation in the region and exposing cracks on the walls of the party that has ruled Cameroon for over 40 years. Meanwhile, an initiative to rally 100,000 youths behind President Paul Biya's candidacy has sparked controversies, with some viewing it as a sign of illegitimacy. The scandal has triggered a wave of reactions and counter-reactions. That's our top story tonight. Stay with us for greater details. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. Electricity has been restored in the Bipanda neighborhood in Douala 5 subdivision after residents protested against persistent blackouts by taking to the streets on Monday. Local restaurant owners claim the outages has negatively impacted their businesses, while residents complained about excessive heat in their homes. Malaglory has more on the story.
The demonstrators used all types of materials, from tables to planks, to block the main junction in the Bipanda neighborhood, Douala 5 district, to protest against the continuous blackouts in the neighborhood for the past weeks. Residents complain of rotten food stuff in the fridge. She adds that she has lost over 150,000 francs as owner of a restaurant, which is her only source of revenue. Another resident says, aside rotten food in the fridge, the heat is too much. La chaleur, maman tu dors. L'enfant si c'est. And the children are obliged to have their bath several times at night. 4 fois par nuit. Trop c'est trop. This with regular payments of their bills. The people have now developed strategies to mediate the situation.
Je paye 500 francs pour charger mon téléphone. 500 francs, c'est 2 heures de temps.
To charge his phone daily, just like Bipanda, Marché New Deido District Hospital and its environs are faced with similar situation. However, in the time of this report, electricity has been re-established in the Bipanda neighborhood, while other neighborhoods are still in darkness.
Over to our main story of the day. The CPDM party in the Far North region is rocked by a stormy internal squabble, threatening the foundation of the party in the region and exposing the cracks in the walls of the party that has ruled Cameroon for over 40 years now. An initiative to mobilize 100,000 youths of the Far North region behind the candidacy of President Paul Biya has been considered as invalid, a scandal buried in reactions and counter-reactions. We have greater details with Fomi Armstrong Sender.
The internal squabble began with the release of this document on April 10, 2025. The document, signed by an elite of the Far North region, ASHU Buka Abdurrahman, called for the mobilization of some 1,000 young persons from across the region under the patronage of Honorable Kavayege Jibril to support the candidacy of President Paul Biya in the upcoming presidential election in Cameroon. An event billed for the 10th of May 2025 at 10 a.m. at the Esplanade of the Marwa ceremonial ground in the Far North region. Widely shared on social and mainstream media in Cameroon, the initiative quickly attracted a wave of reactions and counter-reactions, even from within the CPDM party family. Some CPDM party stakeholders say that the initiative is not known and has not been duly authorized by the party hierarchy from the national to the regional level. Consequently, The party's communication boss, Minister Jacques Famendongo, called on organizers to suspend the rally amid the growing controversy and challenges. Honorable Kavayege Jibril, patron of the initiative, wrote to the Vice Prime Minister, Minister Jacques Famendongo, explaining. He says the initiative was duly authorized before its publication and had as aim to canvass for support in favor of the CPDM party, even from among non-CPDM party young persons in the region, thus should not be considered as a CPDM party affair. He, however, says they will be ready to conform to any formal and legitimate suspension of the noble initiative. Elsewhere, voices from within the region are rising against the planned rally, characterized by multiple calls for young persons to stay clear. Proponents argue that the mobilization seeks to instrumentalize young persons of the region for political gains, hence putting at risk social cohesion in the Far North region.
Now to something else. We take you out of the country, where the Gabonese Interior Minister announced that interim President Brice Oligui Nguema has won the elections with over 90% of the vote just 72 hours after the polls closed. Our reporter Annabella spoke with an internal relations expert to understand why election results are often delayed in Cameroon compared to other countries like, let's say, Gabon, Senegal and Nigeria. Her report.
Provisional results from the Gabonese Ministry of Interior indicate that the interim president, General Brice Oligui Nguema, has won the polls by a landslide victory. 50-year-old Oligui Nguema defeated 7 other candidates alongside the principal challenger, Alain-Claude Bilimbize, to win the election with 90.35% of the vote. Last weekend in Gabon, over 920,000 voters, including 28,000 overseas, voted in about 3,000 polling stations in the oil-rich country. In less than 24 hours, provisional results were already announced, contrary to what happens elsewhere in Central Africa.
Montre à suffisance que lorsqu'un système électoral est fiable et qu'il y a un consensus autour du dispositif de dévolution de pouvoir.
According to Dr. Hilaire Kamga, an expert in international relations, the rapidity in processing votes is proof of a reliable electoral system in Gabon.
Naturellement, il n'y a pas de raison d'attendre longtemps.
In a fraudulent electoral system, he adds, it is just normal that the process of announcing results takes several days and even weeks.
Le fait que les résultats électoraux traînent au Cameroun pendant des semaines renseigne à suffisance sur le dispositif de fraude et de détournement de résultats.
Election experts go further to say it has nothing to do with the number of voters, because other countries like Nigeria as well announced results with the same speed.
Bien entendu, certains nous diront que c'est parce qu'au Gabon il n'y a que 900 000 électeurs. Le Nigeria, qui fait 7 fois le corps électoral camerounais, 10 fois le corps électoral camerounais, rend les résultats le même jour.
As the Gabonese Interior Ministry announces Brice Nguema on the lead by wide margin, Gabonese now are only waiting for the Constitutional Council to officially announce the new president of the Republic of Gabon.
And still out of Cameroon, Pope Francis has made a vibrant public return on Palm Sunday, greeting over 20,000 devotees at the St. Peter's Square, marking a significant step in his recovery from a life-threatening bout of double pneumonia. During the occasion, he expressed heartfelt gratitude for the prayers and support received while being sick. Meanwhile, Togolese President Faure Gnassingbe has been appointed as the African Union's mediator to resolve the conflict between the Congolese armed forces and the Rwandan-backed rebel group M23 in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Our foreign page roundup with Seri Chakutio.
Faure Gnassingbe, President of Togo, will continue the African Union's mediation attempts in the conflict between the Congolese armed forces and the Rwandan-backed rebel group M23 in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. He will replace the Angolan President João Lourenço, who stepped down from the role last month to prioritize Angola's presidency of the African Union. Mediation has been a challenging task in the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, which entered a new phase in January 2025 when the M23 launched a lightning-speed offensive into North Kivu province and took over the cities of Goma and Bukavu. Through Angola's mediation, Kinshasa agreed to direct talks with the rebel group, but talks scheduled to take place in Luanda in mid-March failed when the M23 pulled out at the last minute after European Union sanctions were imposed on some of its leaders. For the African Union, leading the peace negotiations has become even more complex due to a parallel mediation process launched by Qatar. Elsewhere, His Holiness Pope Francis made a public return on Palms Day, greeting more than 20,000 faithful in St. Peter's Square as a sign of continued recovery from a life-threatening bout of double pneumonia. The 80-year-old pontiff appeared in a wheelchair without nasal tubes for supplemental oxygen as he offered warm Easter wishes. During the Palm Sunday Mass, Pope Francis also offered prayers plunged by conflict. He mentioned Sudan, where war marks its second anniversary this week, as well as Ukraine, the Middle East, the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, and Lebanon, where civil war began 50 years ago to today.
Sari Chakuto ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Recently, a dreaded separatist fighter known as Field Marshal Millipede laid down his arms in the Mehmet division of the Southwest region alongside some other separatist fighters. How do these people go about their activities after having done this act? Are they safe after this incident, or would they continue their lives normally? That's what we'll be looking at today with Senior Barrister ASHU Emmanuel. He is a legal mind. Good evening, Senior Barrister ASHU Emmanuel. It's a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight. How do you explain the continuous imprisonment of activists like Mancho BBC, Abdul Karim, and others, while separatist fighters who allegedly killed hundreds are being applauded for laying down their arms and sent to DDR centers? Does it make any sense to you?
Thank you, Equinoxe Television. It's also a pleasure for me to welcome you to my humble abode. Thank you very much. There is a misstatement somewhere. When you say people who killed are being pardoned, I think you have to do some correction, because I don't remember Cameroon having passed any amnesty law pardoning the people who actually bore arms and killed and maimed. They were simply asked to drop their weapons and go into the DDR centers, which they did. So I will want to say that there is a legal implication in this, because in the case of the advent of an international criminal tribunal, people will be required, culprits will be required to face trial before that court. Whereas on the government side, some names can be given. On those in the side of the people who were in the bushes, it would have been difficult to have some names. But thanks to the DDR, you can safely say that any person who bore arms, dropped his weapons and went to the DDR, and has never benefited from any amnesty, will be a sure candidate for this international tribunal, because his offense has not been pardoned by the nation, and as such, he still stands as an international criminal, whether or not he is free. The only problem is that the tribunal has not been launched yet, but when it shall be launched, you will see that those are the people who are going to feed that tribunal's cost list, because their very presence at the DDR is a confession that they are international war criminals. And as for the case of those who are in prison, well, most of them are political prisoners, and you can see the international outcry that is asking for their release. And knowing our president, the president of our country, for who he is, I think that in the days ahead, it is very likely that those people be released before the presidential election as a means of true presidential pardon. So that's what I have to tell you as regards that first question.
Senior Barrister, from your explanation, it's clear that the current freedom enjoyed by the ex-combatants is not legally backed and depends on the will of the government of Cameroon. So tell us, how different is administrative tolerance from pardon?
No, pardon is de jure. It's not de facto. They're enjoying de facto administrative tolerance. It's just tolerance. It's not pardon. What they're enjoying is tolerance. It's not pardon. Pardon is materialized by an amnesty law that would prescribe that pardon. For now, there is no such thing, and I'm sorry to say this. They are just enjoying their brief day, because the time will come when they will have to stand up and face the wrath of the law concerning what they did.
Talking about the repercussions of their act, let's take this concrete example, the case of the wardress at the Bipanda Central Prison, Florence Ayafo, who was decapitated by some of the fighters. How do you think her kids will react, knowing that some of those who brutally killed their mother have been reintegrated into the society and now living a normal life without being punished as they have done so?
Well, and that's the reason why I say there is no amnesty law that has excused that behavior. So the day the matter will be called up before an international tribunal, which we know is going to come, those people, as you call them, will have to face the brunt of the law, because the fact that they are being allowed to go ahead with their activities normally doesn't mean that they are free. No, they are awaiting the advent of that tribunal, and if it does come, well, sorry, they are going to be the people who will have to man it, who have to fill the cost list, and that is the time when the family of the victims will stand up to say, we are asking for compensation.
And what if the tribunal doesn't come as you just said? Does life continue to how it's supposed to be?
I don't see any situation under which it will not happen, because if the international community, to wit, the United States, suspended aid to Cameroon because of offenses against humanity, the United States put up a travel ban on certain officials. For the same reason, the EU came up with serious motions asking that political prisoners be released. I don't see how there will be no follow-up in the form of an international tribunal that will have to call people to book.
Let's look at something different. What are the implications of government's approach in handling separatist fighters and activists in the Anglophone regions?
Oh, well, the government is doing what it can. In fact, I talked of administrative tolerance because the government doesn't want to light up the whole place. In fact, they are very wise. I think they've been very, very wise to come up with this brilliant idea, which has bore some fruit. And I want to say that they are very clever to help any future tribunal to have the culprits without stressing. Because I would not imagine what the case would have been if they were to go catch the people who are abroad to say, you are the people perpetrating war crimes in Cameroon. Their defense would be very obvious. We were out of the country, we were never in Cameroon, we have never killed any person, we have never thrown a single bomb. So I mean, you can't accuse us. But here we have people who actually confess to having done the offenses that are going to put on their heads. So I think this government is, well, they are quite wise.
You claim the government of Cameroon is clever, but then why can't they use, let's say, a much more concrete strategy to come to terms with leaders like Julius Sissoco-Ayutabe and co., who are considered as the brains behind this crisis and are currently being detained? Don't you think these are the right people for the government to dialogue with so as to end this crisis?
Ayuk Tabe is a political prisoner. He's not. Nobody has ever seen him holding arms. He never bore arms. You put him in the first category of people who manifested, who, like Mancho BBC, who brought the coffin revolution and all that. Ayuk Tabe tried to restore the state of Southern Cameroon, and he has no history of any killing, any blood, of any blood on his hands. So I don't think any person can bring him to book. You remember this man this is somebody who was received in audience by the Queen of England and the President of the United States. They would not have done so if he had been a criminal.
Are you convinced that those who are presented to the public are really separatist fighters?
Well, if somebody stands and holds himself out as being a separatist fighter, what have I got to lose by taking him as such? He has held himself out. So if, you see, as I said, if a criminal tribunal, if an international criminal court were to be established for Cameroon, those guys who held themselves out will be held and brought before this court because they showed themselves to the public as separatist fighters. So the onus will be on them now to prove that they are not fighters. But like those who went to the national dialogue, how can any of them say he's not a fighter? When they took the floor, made speeches and declarations, no sir, they are fighters. Their acts have not been pardoned by any law, and they're likely to face prosecution, if not by Cameroon, because those of Gabon have been tried by Cameroon. Those who have not been tried will still stand the chance of being tried by an international tribunal.
And what model can better be adopted to bring lasting peace in these regions plagued by insecurity, that's the northwest and southwest regions?
We'll go ahead. Okay. Many people say they are fighting for the independence of Southern Cameroon. I want to state here emphatically, Southern Cameroon's independence was already granted by the United Nations in 1961, Resolution 1608. Article 2 granted Southern Cameroon independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. So you cannot look for what you already have. A child cannot be born twice. Once a child is born, he cannot be born again. So the problem here is that the people of Southern Cameroon are not exercising that independence. And so the solution to it is very simple. It's not by carrying arms, not by bearing arms. As a political candidate, as a candidate for the presidential election, I say that the solution to put an end to this crisis is simply to enable the people of Southern Cameroon exercise their independence. And what do I mean by that? We propose that Cameroon be carved out into a confederation that will have 20 states. Let every state manage its own affairs. And I say Southern Cameroon should be carved out into 6 states so that we will not have the present bitterness that we are seeing among the population. Some people of one division calling others strangers and all that. Let every person manage his own state. So I propose 6 states for Southern Cameroon and 14 for the rest of the country. Because for the rest of the country too, you see the northerners want their own states. You go to the north, each region wants its own state. The Bassas want their own, the Betis want. So we already see from the socio-political movements in the country that people are clamoring for their own, for the possibility to manage their own affairs. So that's why we are proposing that the country be made into a confederation with 20 states, each of them managing its own affairs, and then the confederal state will be in charge of the army, the economy, mines, and finance and diplomacy.
Senior Barrister ASHU Emmanuel, Legal Mind, thank you so much for your time. And that's all put a cap to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Coming up in some few minutes, the program Equinoxe, so I will search along Otu and his guest. Have a wonderful evening in the company of more interesting programs on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.